Today was a bits and pieces sort of day. We would start at Lion Hill, take a long-winded track out of Lake Nakuru Park and then head east towards Mount Kenya, picking up some birds on the way, hopefully. First though, breakfast and then a look at the bird feeders. This was the only lodge where we stayed that had any sort of organized bird feeder, a trough filled with cooked rice that was alive with superb starlings, speckled mousebirds, greater blue-eared starlings, common bulbuls, and a variety of doves. Picking at the ground below the feeder was our first, and only, arrow-marked babbler. We were lucky to find this because not all of the group was here and so they didn't see it. Also near the feeders were a small group of Hildebrandt spurfowl, another lifer in this small area, although we did see another a short while later. We didn't find them anywhere else on the tour though. The rest of the group had disappeared through the car park, so we reluctantly left the feeders and went to find them. We found them in the grounds, watching an African thrush hopping round the short grass. This would be the last time we would see African thrush. The African thrush was joined by an Abyssinian thrush, a much darker-looking species, without the African thrush's streaky buff throat. It was good to see them together like that. We headed down towards the lake. We had been promised a look at some old sewage ponds and were naturally excited. All birders would be. Down on the lakeshore, Defasa waterbuck were grazing. This was another species that we hadn't seen for quite a while. Yellow-throated longclaw were quite common today. Weirdly, we hadn't seen any yesterday. It showed how different the avifauna could be in different areas of the same national park, and this was not a particularly large park either. We were heading away from the lake into the scrubby savannah. The town of Nakuru was spread out in the distance. Typical savanna scrub birds included a handsome auger buzzard. New for the trip, and actually a lifer, was helmeted guineafowl. It felt a bit odd. We were used to seeing these birds in Nova Scotia as domesticated birds brought in because they are voracious eaters of ticks, but these were our first wild birds. They did look a bit more helmeted than their domestic cousins. A sentinel lark was the first one which actually posed for a photo. As we entered some light woodland, it was clear that we were being watched by a small troop of olive baboons. We watched them, and they watched us. It seemed only fair. Hereabouts we found rattling sisticler, African firefinch, and a surprising African civet. No photos of the last two, unfortunately. Down at the sewage ponds, a lone common moorhen swam past. The trees surrounding the pools had immature and adult black-crowned night herons roosting in the branches. White-faced whistling ducks looked striking against the weed-filled water. A not at all shy black crake picked through the grasses at the edge of the pools. And of course the inevitable marabou storks were present too. We had to head off if we were to make all of the stops planned for today's journey. Lake Nakuru National Park had been excellent. It seemed to have been an all-too-short sojourn in this wildlife haven, and we would never forget the leopard and the bird-filled lakeshore. We negotiated the way through Nakuru town, admiring the flamingo-shaped lampstandards, and headed off to our first stop. We had been promised Golden-winged Sunbird. We drove along the road and then pulled off on the left. There was a sunbird, sitting up in a small twiggy bush right in the fence line. It was a bit against the light, but it performed very well, even doing some singing. Another lifer on the list. Our next stop was a little further up the same road. Gichaka Dam was a known site for the very diminutive lesser jacana and a possible site for Sharpe's Longclaw. We had seen the latter species, very badly, at Kinangop on our first day. We parked, got out, and the rest of the group headed down the rough slope towards the water. We, with bad knees and feet, took it more slowly, and so were perfectly placed when a Sharpe's Longclaw flew up onto a fence post and treated us to stunning views. Now we could definitely say that we'd seen Sharpe's Longclaw, one of Kenya's endemic species. The rest of the group returned from the water's edge to get great views of the Longclaw too. Oh, and they hadn't seen the lesser jacana, so no need to head down there ourselves. Our next site was something of a tourist trap, Thompson's Falls at Nyahururu. The reason for stopping here wasn't the falls, spectacular though they were. No, it was because this was the haunt of the slender-billed starling. Off we went then, running the gauntlet of souvenir sellers until we entered the park. The falls are 74 meters, or 243 feet high, and on the Owasso-Njiro River. A path meanders along the downstream bank, and we headed along this looking for the slender-billed starlings that inhabit the cliffs on each side of the gorge. We didn't find them. In a small woodland area to one side of the path we did find white-eyed slaty flycatcher, a gorgeous gaudy Commodore butterfly, and eastern double-collared sunbird. A big surprise was Abyssinian crimsonwing. We only got a couple of snatched record shots of this bird. Northern yellow white-eye was a little more obliging. And an African grey flycatcher showed very well. Still no slender-billed starlings though, so we cut our losses and headed back to the vans, picking up a peregrine falcon perched high above the falls on the way back. We had an appointment to keep, with a local guide for another special bird. We pulled up next to a quarry-like depression on the side of the road. It was quite well vegetated and we had to walk a short way along the road to view down at the cliffs. We were looking for our third eagle owl, a form of the Cape eagle owl called Mackinder's eagle owl. It took a little time to get everyone onto it, but there it was, perched in the sun on the edge of a hole. Mackinder's eagle owl is somewhat bigger than the other subspecies of Cape eagle owl and has a good chance of becoming a species of its own. We certainly enjoyed the views and could take our packed lunches very happily, watching mottled swifts flying overhead. We had more to see though and had to make tracks to another site. Happy Valley became rather notorious in the 30s and 40s for the louche habits of British and Irish expats that were living there. We were going there for birds, of course, because it is a site for the endemic and declining Hinde's Pied-Babblers. We did see them at the end of the mowed path, but there were no photos. Our stop here was cut a bit short by incoming rain. Well, we were getting closer to Mount Kenya, with its moist microclimate. We hadn't had much rain so far, so we couldn't complain, although it did curtail our hunt for rufous-necked wryneck. Tonight we were stopping at the Naro Moru River Lodge, in the foothills of Mount Kenya. Just for a change we actually arrived in the light, so after checking in and dumping the bags we were able to go for a short walk in the grounds and try out our Kenyan bird ID skills. The grounds were finely wooded, with the Naro Moru River rushing past below. African dusky flycatcher, a female Takaz sunbird and a black-tailed, or mountain oriole, all gave themselves up in the fading light. Naro Moru River Lodge is well known for organizing climbing groups who want to tackle one of Mount Kenya's many peaks, and the bar area is decorated with hanging t-shirts from various groups. We ourselves would be heading up Mount Kenya tomorrow, but not on foot. We would be tackling it the easy way, in our safari vans. We wouldn't get to the top, but we would get a fair way up. For more information, see our 3-volume travelogue, available as ebooks or paperbacks, from Amazon. Why not take a look at our Panama and Costa Rica birding adventures? Videos are on our channel and travelogues on Amazon. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Don't miss all of the other videos in our Kenyan birding safari series.